My name is Colin Sampson, and I am a professional engineer. After receiving my master's degree, I continued my education and passed the professional engineer exam. After meeting all other criteria, I was licensed by the state. My specialty is water resources. It sounds impressive, but it's actually water and sewer projects. I deliver water to you and then take your crap away. I was the best in the class, and my logic and statistics professor became my guiding light. We constantly bumped heads, but I beat him in his favorite orientation problem. After that, he became my mentor and personal tutor. Anything I didn't understand was immediately cleared up with his expert advice. I graduated from the university with honors, earning my bachelor's and master's degrees. My fiancée of 4 years is Sabrina. We met at a print shop when she was an intern. The copy machine she was working on was broken, and I was making copies of some blueprints. We ran into each other a few days in a row, and I was smitten with her beautiful legs and smile. Things progressed pretty quickly, and soon we were having a conversation about an exclusive date. My father left when I was still young, and my mom remarried a few years later. It wasn't until I was a teenager that I learned that my father's infidelity had disrupted my life. My adoptive father didn't really aspire to be a father. I still harbor ill feelings toward my real father. He stopped coming to see me shortly after he moved away. I always felt that I didn't matter to him. It's hard to grow up feeling unwanted. I'm certainly a walking example of someone scarred for life. I made my feelings about loyalty known. Sabrina experienced no trauma in her upbringing. Her parents and grandparents on both sides were alive and happily married. She admitted that she could not relate to my upbringing. However, she has admitted that fidelity is an absolute for her as well. Sabrina is very stubborn. It's not her way or the highway, but it's not too far off from that. I think we are a good match and that I will put her in her place if she thinks too much of herself and not enough of us. This is probably a result of her being an only child. She always gets her way from an early age, probably sees the world differently than those with siblings. Our life was solid from the beginning. Our wedding was overly lavish. I felt sorry for Sabrina's mother when it happened. What's that word? Bride? Sometimes an only child can just be a nuisance. One of our favorite pastimes is attending musicals at the Performing Arts Theater. We have season tickets. Dinner before the show, drinks and dancing afterward is a very romantic outing. We attend 8 musicals each year. I have never been an athlete, but I enjoy watching college sports. Professional sports don't really appeal to me. The Olympics are a mixed picture. I avoid the judged competitions, preferring to watch the ones that go against the clock. Sabrina has no interest in sports at all. Sabrina works at the law firm of Simpson and Haggerty. Simpson is actually Mrs. Nancy Simpson. She expects her female employees to be prim, proper, and morally outstanding. So Sabrina always tries to dress with this in mind and wears pantsuits. This does not embarrass me in the least, as men will drool over her legs. Sabrina seems to be the chosen one among the new employees. She hopes one day to be Simpson, Sampson, and Haggerty. Next chapter. No, one of Sabrina's closest high school friends is getting married. Sabrina has agreed to be one of the bridesmaids. The bride is from a very wealthy family, and the ceremony will be held in Cancun. Each member of the bridal party has been provided with round-trip airfare for 2 in a week in a timeshare. Most of the wedding party is expected to arrive on Thursday. The rehearsal dinner will take place Friday night, and the wedding will take place late Saturday night. From what Sabrina has heard, most are going to stay the entire 7 days. Sabrina has a very important trial on Monday, so we will only stay until Sunday morning. The trial will be a jury trial, but Sabrina thinks their case is so strong that they will get a verdict in their favor. At 4 a.m. Thursday morning, we locked up and headed to the airport. Our early morning flight is to DFW. We change planes 90 minutes before our flight to Cancun. Sabrina had brought a folder with her from Monday's court hearing. I didn't think those folders were supposed to leave the office? No. I need to make sure I memorize all the talking points in our answers. We've spent a fortune preparing for this case. Will you even be able to relax on this trip? Absolutely. I will plan my time so that I have plenty of time to study the trial materials. I intend to let my hair down. After a long wait for our luggage, we arrived at the resort. After checking in, we headed to the restaurant. It was an all-inclusive vacation, and we immediately started taking advantage of that. While Sabrina went to the restroom, the manager introduced himself. He simply greeted all the new guests. Good afternoon, senor. My name is Julio. I am the manager. If you need anything, feel free to ask. I feared Sabrina would bring a sample folder, so I decided to reassure myself. It's nice to meet you, Julio. I'm Colin. How's room security here? The best in the city, sir. I have 30 security cameras, and we keep records for 2 years. We have an impeccable record of protecting our clients. I can provide you with a list of all the times your door has been opened. If you have any doubts, we can review the surveillance footage. Would you like to receive a daily activity printout? That would be great. Thank you. It was nice to meet you, Julio. I think we're going to enjoy our stay. Next chapter. On Thursday evening, there was a meet and greet with all the newlyweds. There were also a few family friends who had arrived early. I hardly knew anyone. I had met a few couples at our wedding, but we never socialized with them. After dinner, the DJ started taking requests, and the dancers took the stage. There were 3 dance areas on the dance floor. The DJ and bar were centered against the back wall. To the left was the dance floor. To the right was the dance floor. In front of the DJ was the largest of the 3 dance floors. From our seat, we couldn't see the dance floor on the left. On the second floor, people were hanging over the railing watching the dancers. Sabrina and I did a few dances, and that's my limit. Dancing doesn't make me very happy. After the first slow dance of the evening, we returned to our seats. We sat through an incomplete song when a man came up to us and asked Sabrina to dance. Can I have a dance? Just the fast ones. Okay. She danced a few numbers with the man and went back to get something to drink. Another man came up and asked Sabrina to dance. Without looking at me, she accepted. I was talking about a Friday night golf game with a guy who was sitting at our table. Looking around, I didn't see Sabrina. I went up to the second floor and spotted her in the left dance area. It was a quick number and she was showing off to her partner. I saw about as much as I wanted to see and headed for the stairs. The fast song stopped and the slow song started. I paused and watched. Sabrina pulled away from her partner, but not seeing me at our table, returned to the left side of the dance area. They pressed themselves against each other and swayed. I tracked Sabrina down and gave her a puzzled look. What the hell does the lack of slow dancing mean to you? She pushed her partner away and stared at me wide-eyed. I forgot. I'm sorry. Forgot about your ass. I turned back to Sabrina. If you're not back in the room 10 seconds after me, I'm going to destroy your court file. I turned and headed for the elevator. Sabrina hurried back to our table and gathered her things. As the elevator door began to close, she shouted, "Wait!" I yelled back, 10 seconds or I'll destroy her. Use the stairs. I let the elevator door close. As I was inserting my card into the door to the stairwell opened. A panting Sabrina continued to run toward me. She managed to slam the door shut before it closed. Did you have to make a scene? Me? I have to make a scene? Since when did you become such a cheap whore? I must have had too much to drink. Sorry. Bullshit. Get out of my sight. Sabrina closed the bedroom door. I slept on the couch. Next chapter. Friday morning, we hardly spoke at all. After getting dressed, we went to the main floor and had breakfast. Less than an hour later, we were back in the room. I'm going with a group to play golf. What are you doing? I'm going with a shopping group. Will you be back by 4? We have to help set things up. I will. I'll see you later. Maybe we can have a little fun before rehearsal. Sounds good, babe. I went down to the lobby around 8:25 in the morning. We had 3 tea times at the resort field. It was a 15-minute drive from the timeshare. 11 people loaded into a van sent by the golf course. 7 guys and 2 couples. The 2 couples started first, as they were the ones who had organized this outing. On the 14th doubles tee, play picked up. Our first group was just leaving the green, and the second group was waiting for their turn. We had to wait at least 15 minutes before we resumed play. Tom, the guy I was riding in the same cart with, decided to call his wife. He asked her how the shopping was going and also inquired about how a husband and wife usually communicate. After he hung up, I asked him, "Do ladies like shopping?" "Oh yes, Shelby can easily max out a credit card. No matter where we are, she can find something to buy. She said one of the ladies wasn't feeling well. She sent her bags back to be left at the front desk. Great, so she can turn that into 2 shopping trips." "That's hilarious. Her hands are empty now. Let's hope the exchange rate is favorable today." "No shit like that. She's not really into budget shopping." I picked up my phone and pressed the button to dial Sabrina's number. It went to messages. We were waiting in the fairway on the 18th pitch when my phone buzzed. It was Sabrina. "Hey babe, how's the shopping going?" "We just got back. I see you called." "Yeah, we got held up in the field, and I thought I'd see how the shopping was going." "I guess I didn't hear you call. You know how noisy these malls can be. Our cab just dropped us off. Will you be back soon?" "I'll be back in an hour or so. I'll see you soon." As I sat in the van heading back to the resort, a message came through on my cell phone. "Your daily room log is available at the front desk." I picked up the envelope at the front desk and joined the small herd boarding the elevator. I pulled out the report and took a quick look through it. At the first stop, I got off and walked down the stairs to the lobby. After waiting for a while, Julio walked up to the counter. "Julio, we met yesterday. I'm Colin." "Yes, senor, I remember you. Did you get the room activity report?" I held it out. It showed that my room door had been opened 3 times the night before. For today, 6:42, 7:29, 8:20, 8:45, 12:10, 12:12, 2:09, 2:10, and 2:10 again. "Julio, is it possible to review the security footage for some of these?" "Sure, Colin. Come with me. We'll watch them." In the morning, we went to breakfast, so it had to be the first 2. I left for golf just after 8, so that was the first one. I suspect Sabrina left at 8:45 to go shopping. "Let's start at 8:45. I confirm Sabrina was wearing a blouse and pants when she left. "May I see the tapes from around noon?" "Of course, sir." We watched as Sabrina handed the packages to the front desk. When she entered our room at 12:10, she had another package in her hand. 2 minutes later, she left without a bag, taking only the room key with her. "That's my wife. How about 2 hours?" "My pleasure, sir." Sabrina was wearing a long men's t-shirt with the logo of some kind of 10K race on it. "Hold on. Why don't we rewind and see where it came from?" He liked to play with his security system. He went back 5 minutes. He had 2 screens, and each one displayed 16 views simultaneously. 2 from each floor, as well as many views from the lobby and outside. We found Sabrina leaving room 305 before returning to our room. The expression on her face was blank, almost emotionless. "Can we come back around noon and go over the tapes?" A few minutes after noon, a tall man walked into room 305. Because of his height, I thought I recognized him as the husband of one of the bridesmaids. At about 12:14, Sabrina pushed open the door of room 305 and stepped inside. "Are you all right, sir? Can I get you some water, coffee, or something stronger?" "No, but thank you for asking." Another view. "Can we go and look at the 2 o'clock ones again?" We watched Sabrina walk into our room wearing a t-shirt. A minute later, she came out, dressed in a robe, carrying a small bag. We watched as she placed the bag in the trash can by the elevator, and then returned to our room. "Excuse me, sir. Would you like me to print out the pictures of her going in and out of the rooms?" I slipped him a 20. "Yes, I'll take them from you tonight." Please don't tell anyone about this meeting. I assure you, sir. I checked the bridal list. Room 305 was occupied by Dennis and Mary Lou Denton. She was a bridesmaid. On my way to the room, I rummaged through the trash can a bit and found the bag Sabrina had thrown away. It was the t-shirt she was wearing. I buried it in my windbreaker and walked into the room. Hey, Han, we have time to have a little fun before we head to rehearsal. As much as I'd like to, my stomach won't let me. I'm going to sit in the shower and try to relax a little. Oh, Han, that sucks. Let's hope you feel better today. I didn't have the slightest intention of getting sloppy seconds. I couldn't think of an explanation that would lead to anything but divorce. Obviously, I couldn't contain my growing rage lest it affect my behavior. As we were getting ready for rehearsal, Sabrina remarked, "Someone's in a bad mood. Maybe I can lift your spirits tonight." I doubt it. She made an embarrassed look, but left it at that. While the newlyweds were busy playing at tomorrow's wedding, I chatted with the spouses, trying to find out more about the Dentons. The only thing I was able to find out was that they both went to school with Sabrina. Most of the newlyweds and a few of their spouses went to this school. The bride and groom were no different from each other. It seemed that Sabrina and I were in the minority, having met after school. The guy I caught Sabrina dancing with was avoiding me. Like me, his wife was in the wedding party. After dinner, the DJ turned up the music. "Are you going to dance tonight, Han?" "No, none of us are dancing tonight." "But I want to dance." "Sorry, babe, I told you no slow dancing last night and you completely ignored me. No dancing tonight." Sabrina left our table in annoyance. She chatted with me, and I noticed she was avoiding Dennis. I didn't see her doing anything inappropriate with anyone. She was constantly checking to see if I was watching her. After avoiding me for 2 hours, she returned to our table. "Some of us are going to go to the hot tub. Do you want to go?" "We're not going. We're done for the day. Pack your things and let's go." "What's the matter with you? I'm going to the hot tub." I said, "Pack your stuff and let's go." She saw a look in my eyes that she had never seen before. It startled her. We were the center of attention. It became very quiet at our table. Sabrina picked up her purse and with a shrug, followed me to the elevator. When we got back to the room, she asked angrily, "What's your problem? What's gotten into you?" "It's not about what's gotten into me, slut. I'm just wondering how many more times you've offered me sloppy seconds. If I were you, I'd lock myself in my bedroom or risk falling off a 5th-story balcony." "Oh, God. Oh, no. How did you do that? Let me explain." I opened the sliding glass door to the balcony and looked back at Sabrina. "Shut the hell up." I took a step toward her, but she ran into the bedroom and slammed the door shut. From behind the door, I heard her pleading, "Colin, please, can we talk?" "You'll behave normally during the wedding, but it's over between us." "Don't say that. I love you." I slammed my palm on the bedroom door. "Shut up, slut. We're done." Sabrina sobbed. I quietly left the room, walked down the hall, and picked up the envelope Julio had left for me. There was a copy machine in the business center, and I made 2 copies of each of the photos. I watched television until 2 in the morning. The crying coming from the bedroom continued until midnight. To say the atmosphere was tense on Saturday morning is putting it too mildly. Every time she started talking, I made it clear that she had better shut up. I didn't let Sabrina out of my sight as we left the room. Around noon, she started getting ready for the wedding. After a few minutes of socializing with the bridal party, many of the ladies tried to cheer Sabrina up. While the newlyweds went about their pre-wedding business, I stayed on the sidelines in the living room. A few spouses nonchalantly peeked in on me to see if everything was okay. I suspected Sabrina was behind it. I took advantage of the free time to change my return flight to the red-eye, which was leaving for DFW at midnight. When the wedding was over and the reception got down to cake and dancing, Sabrina finally spoke. "Are we going to dance this evening?" "Yeah, all the way to the fall, but if I see shit like that Thursday night, your room key might not fit." "That's okay. I only want to dance with you. We didn't dance. I realized she really wanted to talk. She could yell, and I never let her. After the wedding ceremony, every time I got a drink for Sabrina, I put a sleeping pill in it. It lasted until the bride and groom said goodbye to the crowd. I don't feel so good. Can we go back to the room? After Sabrina fell asleep, I packed my things. I took her passport, driver's license, credit card, and file folder. I put a set of photos in her suitcase with a note that said, "I've already gone home." I prepared a package for Mary Lou Denton. It contained both the photo set and the shirt Sabrina had thrown away. There was a note in the package. "Mary Lou, this is the shirt that my soon-to-be ex-wife Sabrina left your room in on Friday." The pictures show Dennis and her together for about 2 hours. Colleen. As I waited for the cab to the airport, I found the Dentons still partying. "Mary Lou, here's a package and a note for you. Dennis, I wish you the most painful divorce the world has ever seen. You'll be looking over your shoulder for a long time to come. Who knows when, but you haven't seen the last of me yet." There was fear in his eyes, but I didn't want to mess with the police. The cab driver was already loading my bag when I saw resort security heading toward the reception area. As we pulled away, I saw Dennis being escorted by security. He was pressing a towel to his forehead. Next chapter. I was exhausted, but by 7 in the morning I was back at my house. Sabrina was supposed to wake up soon. I'd taken a few naps on the flights to and from DFW. Wasting no time, I brewed some coffee. There wasn't much food in the fridge, so I started snacking on cookies and energy bars. My phone beeped that a text had come in. "Where are you? We have to leave for the airport in an hour? Why didn't you wake me up?" A smile crept across my face. My phone rang, but I missed the message. I turned on my voicemail. "Colin, I'm so sorry. We can work through this. You can have a hall pass. You might have 10 hall passes. Please talk to me." I sent a text. "I'm already home. Your passport, driver's license, credit card, and court file are on the kitchen table. I won't be here when you get home." I counted backwards from 20, but no sooner had I gotten to 0 than the phone rang again. I switched it to messages again. The venom was dripping. "You're a freak! I'm stuck here! I need to be in court in the morning." Unable to contain myself, I sent a message. "Very sorry. You weren't part of my plans. Can you get over it?" "Oh, wait. Of course you can. You were all over the place on Friday at noon. Well planned." I scanned the set of photos into the computer, edited a few, annotating them, "Her husband's room," "Not her husband's room." I sent them to Sabrina with a BCC note to all members of the wedding party. I also sent them to Sabrina's parents. The message Sabrina left about an hour after her outburst almost made me feel sorry for her. I said almost. She was sobbing so hard she was choking when she spoke. I I can't get help with my passport until tomorrow. Oh my God, she's gonna fire me. Please help me. Do something." I did something. I deleted the message. It was too pathetic to listen to. I sent a return message. "If you want, I can give the court folder and a set of photos to Mrs. Simpson." The thought occurred to me that I shouldn't own that folder. I decided that would be my way out of jail. Sabrina's return message was the message of a broken woman. "Yes, please give them to her, thank you. I never meant to hurt you. Can we at least talk?" And the only thing I knew for sure was how to spell the word divorce. Until today, I had never given much thought to the mechanics of divorce. My concern was that if Sabrina lost her job, I would have to pay alimony. I decided not to give the pictures to Mrs. Simpson. After ascertaining her address, I drove to her place. "Mrs. Simpson, I'm sorry to bother you on a Sunday. Sabrina and I were in Mexico. I'm home, but Sabrina had a problem with her passport. She asked me to give this to you. Have a good day." A few hours later came another message. "She suspended me without pay for a month. She didn't say anything about the photos." I quickly replied, "Lost her husband, derailed her career, lost the respect of her friends and family, all for the sake of some quick fun. What a shame. When you said you were going to let your hair down, I had no idea. You must have shown me. I held onto the pictures in case our divorce was ugly. Please, Colin, no divorce. I don't want to lose you. When can we talk? Just texting her made me more furious. It's easy to declare your love after shitting in your own bed. I'm turning my phone off. If you can be here in 15 minutes, I'll listen to what you have to say. True to my word, I turned the phone off. Next chapter. Monday was my day off, so I put off packing and slept another night in my bed. At dawn, I listened to a few more voicemails from Sabrina. They were straight out of a cheating textbook. I decided to find a place to stay for the night, using the bed and breakfast route. I found one near work for $3.50 a week, including lodging fees. There was an 18-day period free starting today. I went to look at the place. It looked perfect, and the woman representing the house, Denise, was a bit reserved but convinced me to book it. The house had a hot tub on the back porch and parking in the attached garage. In less than an hour, I was already on site, having packed everything I needed for my upcoming stay. I found a storage unit and made a few more trips home to pick up everything I wanted. I made sure to destroy all the pictures with my image on them. It takes a special kind of woman to rent out her home to strangers. Denise and I chatted Monday night. She works out of her house and will be 50 in a couple months. Her husband, Roger, died in a car accident a few years ago. She has 2 daughters. One lives 1,000 miles away, married, and has no children. The other daughter, Carrie, lives a few miles away. She is divorced and has a 3-year-old daughter. Tuesday morning, I woke up to the smell of bacon. It was a good breakfast that Denise had made. After a long lunch, I met with the divorce attorney. He was going to file the papers quickly and serve them on Sabrina on Thursday if she was back in town. Probably straight out of the cuckolded husband handbook, I started shuffling money around. Sabrina came home Tuesday afternoon. She persistently left voice messages and sent text messages. I listened to them and texted back. You wanted to talk? Can we meet Thursday night for a drink? Yes. Where are you staying? As far away from you as possible. That silenced her. The accommodation agreement was for breakfast, but Denise seemed pleased when I agreed to have dinner with her. Whether she knew it or not, she became my counselor. I didn't expect answers from her, but I needed to get my feelings out in the open to have any chance of moving on with my life. Just having someone there to listen and ask pointed questions was very therapeutic. Wednesday night, we were joined by her neighbor, Kathleen. Kathleen is a Bible scholar and just someone with an opinion. I occasionally glanced at Denise, but she just shrugged and smiled. When Kathleen left, I said, "That was different. She's single. Her husband works overseas. He's home for 2 weeks and then he's gone for 10. I hope it wasn't too painful." Not at all. She's almost comical to listen to. She has serious problems with reality. Yes, she does. Thanks for putting up with it. Peach pie? Carrie made it. I wouldn't say no. I learned more about Denise's family. Carrie had gone through a nasty divorce. Celeste was the granddaughter and had Denise wrapped around her finger. Next chapter. Thursday night, my stomach was already cramping when I found the table where Sabrina was sitting. Hey, Colin. How are you doing? Just great. And you? Devastated. I got served today. You couldn't wait until we could talk? What's there to talk about? I don't want to know why you did what you did. For all I know, you've been doing it the whole time we've been married. You think giving me a hall pass is going to make things better? No way. I never wanted a whore as a wife, and I'm certainly not interested in having a reformed whore as a wife. It became clear in Cancun that you only care about yourself. Rules mean nothing to you. Vows don't mean a damn thing to you. So what do you want to talk about? Colin, I wasn't sure I could say what I needed to say, so I wrote you a letter. Even if we divorce, I promise you that I will do everything in my power to win your heart back. I took the letter from her trembling hand. Another man might have agreed, but he wasn't raised the way I was. I slipped the letter into my pocket. If you have any problems with the terms of your divorce, I suggest you have your attorney contact mine. Colin, please, what will we need to handle this? A time machine. When you love or loved someone, it turns you inside out when you see them suffer. I wasn't going to bring her back, but it was hard. For every please, I shook my head no. Denise was waiting for me when I pulled up to the house after 10. Do you want to talk? No. Wait, yeah, I don't. It hurts. The first question you have to answer honestly is this. Are you better off with her or without her? Denise offered me a hug, and I gladly accepted it. Thanks. I'll sleep on it. My stomach was in knots. I went to bed, but didn't fall asleep until well past midnight. Next chapter. On Friday afternoon, I left the office early to catch my alma mater's NCAA first-round game. At halftime, we had a comfortable lead. I was entertained by Celeste. She's 3 years old, and there's a sly little twinkle in her eye. A woman in a stylish outfit walked through the front door without knocking. She was pleasant to look at, and her physical features seemed rather average. You look good in that outfit. You must be Carrie. Yes, and you must be Colleen. I am. Your daughter is a little cutie and very flirty. She's very social. Mommy said you're staying another 2 weeks. Not quite 2 weeks. She has another reservation. I liked it so much I booked another 5 weeks after her next guests. What are you watching? A basketball tournament. Have a seat, the second half is about to start. No, thanks. I've never liked watching men play with their balls. I'd rather go to a show or a play. Would you like 2 tickets to the musical at the Performing Arts Theater? They're for tomorrow night at 7 p.m. You don't want them? Due to some recent events, I don't have a date. If you need them, great. Otherwise, they're gone. I found a folder of printed tickets and handed them to Carrie. She studied them for a bit and then went to find her mom. Thank you. That's very kind of you. You're welcome. Just a small thank you for your mom being so nice to me. Carrie and Denise sat in the kitchen and talked quietly for the next hour. Carrie stood in the doorway. Colin, if you don't have anything to do tomorrow night, would you like to go to the musical? It won't be a date, just 2 strangers sitting next to each other and enjoying the performance. You didn't have to ask me twice. I knew how to put the knife in Sabrina. Only if that stranger looks like you. Do you know if this stranger wants to be fed before the show? I'll be here at 5. Mom will watch Celeste. You won't be embarrassed if I increase the portion? Not at all. If you don't have another nice outfit, you can wear this one. It really looks spectacular on you. I'm not worried about me. I hope you washed your face well. Now I knew where Celeste got that sly glint in her eyes. Carrie gathered Celeste up and we said our goodbyes. Talking about something other than my job or my failing personal life was refreshing. It wasn't announced as a date, but I was definitely nervous for Saturday. Midnight. My chance to do a little digging on myself came around noon. I got a text from Sabrina. My calendar reminded me of our musical tonight. Are we still going? I'm taking someone else. Am I really that easy to forget? That's amazing. That's exactly what I thought in Cancun. I'm sorry, Colin. Did you read my letter? Not yet. To tell you the truth, I had forgotten about the letter. My initial reaction was that the lawyer in it had time to twist the facts. I looked at the envelope, but decided it was too soon to torture myself. Next chapter. Carrie arrived around 4 o'clock. Denise, Carrie, and I were sitting at the kitchen table making small talk. Carrie was as nervous as I was. It was getting close to 5 o'clock, and Carrie said to Celeste, "Behave for Grandma, I love you." After Carrie gave Celeste a big hug, we walked out the door. I went to the same restaurant Sabrina and I would go to. The conversation turned to work. Carrie was a civil engineer. She had yet to take the professional engineer exam. I'm jealous. I've taken the test twice and still haven't passed. Well, I dedicated myself to passing it. I was a full-time student until I passed it. I bet you've been working. Worked. Now it's become clear that you have to focus, or you won't pass. Did your divorce affect your attempts to pass the test? Definitely. It was a very bitter custody battle, and it's still not over. I'm constantly worried that he's going to disappear with Celeste. He didn't want a divorce. He thought that the fact that he was having fun with his whore was irrelevant, and that we should stay together and raise Celeste. There was nothing I could do about it. The courts tend to favor the mother. Mom says your problem started a week ago. Well, without knowing what led to her betrayal, let's just say I found out I had problems a week ago. I'll be honest with you. It took me 6 long months to get through the days of rage, hatred, self-pity, and depression. We may clash over the next 6 months, but I'm not going to put myself in danger until you've had time to deal with all the emotional issues. Fair enough. As your invitation says, it's just 2 strangers choking on their food and then sitting nervously next to each other in the theater. She giggled. I'm nervous. What's the big deal? You're just being kind. You knew I would be nervous and you didn't want me to feel alone. We changed the subject and enjoyed our meal. After the musical, I offered her a drink, but she declined. When we got back to Denise's house, Carrie suggested, would you like some Irish coffee? That sounds great. We spent another hour discussing engineering projects in the news. When she got up to leave, we both stood there not knowing how to end the evening. I had fun. Me too. Pretty cheesy, but it suited us both. I heard Denise's bedroom door close. I suspected she was snooping. Next chapter. On Sunday, I bought a thank you card and addressed it to Carrie. I left it with Denise to give to Carrie when she dropped Celeste off on Monday. My alma mater hit its 16th anniversary. I rearranged my schedule so I could get there early and get home before Carrie picked up Celeste. I'll admit, I was in love with her and with Celeste. I can't say the next 2 weeks flew by quickly, but work was hectic, and all the things my lawyer wanted to do kept me busy. I had dinner with Denise 3 or 4 times a week. She's an interesting person. I had to leave for 3 days as Denise had rented an apartment before I arrived. Colin, I know you've booked another 5 weeks, but I have a suggestion. I'd rent you a room for $1,000 a month. If that would suit you, I can cancel your upcoming 5-week stay. It won't affect your customer rating if I cancel it. Do you need time to think about it? Perhaps. I'd hate to do something stupid. Okay, I thought. I'd love to rent a room from you. Keep the key. I'll see you on Monday. If there are things you wouldn't want to move, you can store them in the garage. I kissed her. Thanks, Denise. I'll get the cash. Over the weekend, I realized that the next musical was next Saturday. I printed out the tickets and put them in an envelope addressed to Carrie. After moving back on Monday, I left the tickets with Carrie when she dropped Celeste off on Tuesday. Carrie, I still don't have anyone to sit with me. Take your current squib and have fun. Colleen. After unpacking on Monday, I joined Denise for coffee and peach pie a la mode. The pie was delicious. Thank you. Don't thank me. Carrie made it. Well, then thank her for me. She's having dinner here tomorrow night. Why don't you thank her yourself? It seemed that Denise was my social coordinator and had organized a non-date with Carrie. I can do that. Next chapter. Tuesday morning, I received a text from Sabrina. Mrs. Simpson suggested I find another law firm to work for. She found out we were getting divorced, and I think she talked to someone from the wedding. I was already planning for something like this to happen, so I'll be starting at Adams and Maven on Monday. Good luck with that. Are we going to the musical on Saturday? I gave the tickets away. Did you read my letter? No. Either Colin doesn't mean that much to me, and I'm going to do something premeditated, or Colin doesn't mean that much to me, and I'm going to do something spontaneous. Knowing how you tried to pull it off won't change the one constant. Colin doesn't mean that much to me. You mean everything to me. I wish I could find a way to let you know how sorry I am. I wasn't in the mood to have dinner with Denise and Carrie, but I did my best. Denise ambushed me. She had taken Celeste to a movie, so it was just Carrie. We made small talk at dinner, then moved into the living room and sat in the armchairs. Colin, you seem distracted this evening. Is everything okay? I exchanged messages with her today. Like you said, it's taking a while to deal with the anger that has suddenly set in. Things took a turn for the better about an hour ago. I'm fine now. Colin, would you keep me company for the musical on Saturday? It's my turn to buy dinner. Carrie, I'd be honored. Would flip-flops and ripped jeans be okay? I'll let you decide. And she flashed the same sly glare. On Saturday, I wore my best suit. We were much more comfortable with each other this time. Neither of us looked nervous. When we had drinks after the show at Denise's house, we stood around not knowing how to end the evening. Things hadn't changed from the first time. Colin, come closer. I don't want Mom to hear this. I stepped closer and took the hand she held out. I really enjoy your company, she whispered, and kissed my cheek. She tried to pull her hand away, but I brought it to my lips, kissed the back of her palm, and said loudly, I really enjoy your company too. We both burst into laughter. I let go of her hand, but she pulled back to me and we hugged gently. I had a great time. Me too. On Sunday, I bought another thank you card and left it for Carrie. Next chapter. Kathleen was with Denise when I got home from work Friday afternoon. Kathleen had blessed me several times, but I was still hesitant to attend her Sunday services. It's always nice to see her leave the house. Dinner with Denise was not the usual. She seemed on edge. After having had dinner with her over a dozen times, it was quite obvious. What's bothering you, Denise? Colin, I don't mean to pry, but my curiosity takes over. What are you doing with your desires? Well, Denise, if you must know, I'd leave the front door unlocked and Kathleen would sneak in. Denise laughed uncontrollably. You're awful. God, that's hilarious. And she says she's got her eye on you. You've got everything you need. Stop it. You're bad. The thought that she might have those desires is too funny. Before I answer your question, who wants to know? Does it matter? Probably not, but I'm just curious. Are you asking about yourself because you're starting to think you have what it takes to be a cougar? Maybe the thought of having a perfectly normal-looking guy with a messy love life got your hormones working? Or maybe you went on a reconnaissance trip to someone near and dear to you. Or maybe Kathleen is too shy to make friends and asked you to plant a seed. Through a giggle. Well, that's not for Kathleen. Then let me ask you this. Roger died a few years ago. How do you deal with your urges? That's another matter. We loved each other and raised two beautiful daughters. The thought of doing it with someone else doesn't appeal to me. Maybe that will change over time, but so far it hasn't. It's not that different. I was in love, and as suddenly as a car accident, it ended. Unlike you, I have conflicting emotions. I love her, but I hate her more than I love her. She destroyed the trust that is necessary to be a couple. I will never take her back. Unfortunately, the thought of having fun with someone else does not appeal to me. That will change in time, but for now, it hasn't. Denise got up from her chair and came up behind me. She put her arms around me and laid her head next to mine. After a few moments of silence, she kissed my cheek. I assume this means you were checking me out for someone near and dear to you? She's afraid you'll find someone to fulfill your needs before she finds the courage to start a relationship. She doesn't want to miss her chance. She's still hurting from the divorce. I handed my phone to Denise. Dial her number. Handing the phone back, I listened to the call. Hello? Carrie, it's Colin. If you don't have anything to do tomorrow, would you let me take you and Celeste on a picnic? I would enjoy your company as my companion. If I thought you could find a competent babysitter for the baby on such short notice, we could continue it tonight. Denise rubbed the back of my neck. Colin, I think I'd like that. What time is it? I'll drive up to Mom's house. How about noon? Noon would be fine. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night. Good night. Denise gave me another hug and a kiss. Carrie's ringtone played on her cell phone. I'll leave you two alone. Good night, Denise. Good night, Colin. Don't forget to leave the door open for Kathleen. I will. And you leave the door open for her, too. And then she threw the book she was reading across the room at me. Stop it. Next chapter. Carrie and Celeste showed up at noon. Since I didn't have a proper car seat for Celeste, I loaded all the picnic supplies into Carrie's car, and she got behind the wheel. You can drive. I have no problem with you driving. She hit the brakes, and I reached for the dashboard. Looks like your drugs aren't working. We both giggled. I loved playing with Celeste on the playground. If I auditioned, I guess I passed that test. Several times, Carrie and I kissed and cuddled gently. That night, after Celeste told her grandmother how much fun she had, Carrie and I went on a real date. We had dinner and then went to a nightclub. Although several men asked her to dance, she turned them all down. We danced a few times, but it wasn't my thing. We spent our time imagining how each of the couples on the dance floor got to know each other. Carrie has a vivid imagination. It was a fun way to pass the time. When it was over, I picked Celeste up in my arms and carried her to Carrie's car. Once Celeste was in her car seat, Carrie turned to me. Colin, I had a great time today. Can I get a real hug and kiss this time? You didn't have to ask me twice. Down, boy. You better go inside and get ready to meet Kathleen. Now I was embarrassed. Obviously, Denise knew about our conversations. Well said. I can't tell you how much I needed a day like today. I'll see you on Monday. Good night, Carrie. A sparkle sparkled in her eyes. I needed it too, Colin. Good night. I turned and saw Denise watching us from the living room window. She quickly disappeared. Kathleen didn't show up. I squirmed all night. Next chapter. The following Friday, I joined Kathleen at the dinner table at Denise's house. Putting Kathleen facing the refrigerator, I filled my glass with ice. I muttered, I can leave you two alone. Denise said loudly, Colleen, please sit down and join us. Kathleen paid no attention and began her crusade to convert me. Like I said, it's always a pleasure to see her leave the house. Pretty proud of yourself, mister. Denise kissed me briefly on the lips and hugged me very tightly. She has a beautiful full bob, although you can never tell that from the baggy tops she wears. Thanks for everything. Carrie said you're taking her to the movies tomorrow. To the Megaplex. I'll let her pick it out for herself. I hope Kathleen realizes you're dating again. I do too. With her connections, I could fry in hell. Sabrina relentlessly portrayed herself as sweet and caring. I received daily texts and random calls. No matter how hard I tried to convince her that the divorce was going through, she never gave up hope that I would forgive her. I noticed that her texts or calls no longer elicit an angry response. I think I had made peace with her. Denise had a small gathering for her 50th birthday. It was a Sunday afternoon. I dropped off a few gifts. On one of them, I wrote Kathleen's name, and on the others, I wrote my own. I made sure Kathleen had already left before I planted that gift. Carrie and I sat together on the couch as Denise began opening the packages. She thanked those present each time she opened a gift. When she opened my gift marked from Kathleen, she shrieked and ran out of the room, taking the box with her. A minute later, she was back in her bedroom. Colin, you're awful. I'm going to get you. Carrie looked questioningly at my smirk. Tell me, now. Inside joke. It would be better if she told you. I bought a collar that said, my bitch. The crowd dwindled down to Denise, Carrie, and me. Carrie was very curious. Spill it, Mom. What was in the bag? It's better you don't know. Nope. Tell me. I did, and both ladies giggled. After getting cleaned up after the party, Carrie and Celeste got ready to leave. I walked them to her car. After buckling Celeste in her car seat, Carrie turned around and pulled me to her for another kiss. Would you be okay with another trip to the movies next weekend? I'd love to. Our movie nights turned into dates. We held hands, cuddled, and acted like a couple. I looked forward to our little outings. Next chapter. The divorce hearing was scheduled for Thursday. I had to stay late at work on Tuesday, so it was already 6 o'clock when I got home. Carrie and Sabrina's car met me. All I need to make this storm perfect is for Kathleen to be here too. Sabrina, this is a surprise. Carrie spoke up. Hi, honey. How was work today? Pretty good. How was your day? Still working on the Evergreen project. Mom took Celeste out for ice cream. Sabrina and I made small talk. Sabrina asked with a confused and distressed look. Can we talk privately? There's no need. You can say whatever you need to say in Carrie's presence. She's been through a divorce, so there's nothing she hasn't heard before. Colin, I don't want a divorce. There has to be some way for you to forgive me. What do I need to do? Sabrina, for the last 3 months I've been adamant. We're not getting back together. But I want you. Carrie entered the fray. There are hundreds of women in this town who want someone like Colin. He could live happily ever after with any one of them. He can't live happily ever after with you because he can't trust you. You say you love him, but how can you torture this man by making him doubt what you really do every time you're not together? For the next 50 years, he'll be in constant doubt, and that's no way to live your life. I won't have anything to do with my ex because of those same concerns. A grin appeared on Sabrina's face. You need someone to talk to? You won't listen to me, but everything she says is true. I loved you more than I can describe, but it wasn't enough for you. I don't want to live a life where my stomach cramps when I don't know what you're doing. Sabrina headed for the door. When she stood on the porch, she said, I love you, Colin. I love you too, Sabrina. I hope everything works out for you. And one more thing. Here, take this. I never got around to reading it. I held out to Sabrina the unopened letter she had written to me. She had ruined our marriage, and her explanation would never matter. Then let me tell you what it says. I admit that I agreed to meet Dennis for fun. When I got to his room, I was overcome with guilt before we did anything. Dennis was upset and became physically aggressive after a while. He made me do it. Bravo. Bravo. I expected nothing less than an extraordinary story. You took what you had planned and victimized yourself. I feel sorry for you if that's true, but you could just as easily have not shown up or backed out over the phone. You didn't. You went, and the rest, like us, is history. Colin, you have a right to doubt me, but it's the truth. And to reassure you, this is the only time I've ever disrespected you in our marriage. Sabrina, you're right. I should doubt everything about our time together. It seems like you were so close to sparing us all this grief, but you didn't. It's time for you to go. Sabrina just stood there and watched. Carrie stormed out and closed the front door. I think she's telling the truth. Maybe a better man could forgive her. I think you treated her with respect. She caused her own problems. I know. How long do you say these conflicting emotions have lasted? I'll let you know when mine have passed. Denise came back and asked, Tell me, how did your meeting with Sabrina go? Well, Mom, I pretended to be Colin's girlfriend. It shocked her a little bit. Carrie is a great actress. You should have heard her speak. It really pissed Sabrina off. What did you say? I was just stating the facts. A lot of women would like to get Colin, but he couldn't trust her. Without trust, there is no hope for a relationship. I have to go now. I'll see you in the morning, Mom. Colin and I are going to see a movie this weekend. Can you watch Celeste? Sure, sweetie. I walked Carrie to her car. We agreed that I would arrive a few hours after Celeste fell asleep. She told me to plan on staying for a couple hours. That turned me on a little. Once inside, I made an excuse. Denise, I have a project meeting tonight, so I'll be back around midnight. You should probably lock the door so Kathleen can't sneak in. If she doesn't find me, she might go looking for you. Chuckling. You're bad. How do you feel about Sabrina? I'm over her. Tonight was exactly what I needed to move on. I'm happy for you, Colin. You know Carrie wasn't so much pretending as hoping. I made dinner tonight. It'll take about 10 minutes to heat everything up. I arrived at Carrie's house a little after 9 in the evening. We had a pretty good evening. We both had to go to work in the morning, so I got dressed. Colin, I'm not going to try to guess how this will affect us, but I needed this. Carrie, I needed it too. You were just what the doctor ordered. I'll call you tomorrow so you know I care. You better call. So I called. At lunch and after dinner. On Thursday, I sent Carrie a text when I got the news that the divorce had gone through. Want to come over tonight and celebrate? See you at 9. Later that day, I received a text from Sabrina. Can I buy you dinner and take you to a movie? Sabrina, you need to find another man to love. I hope you get counseling to overcome your self-destructive behavior. I will always love you, but I can't and don't want to live with you. Thank you for the offer, but no. Please move on with your life. Next chapter. Carrie shared how her marriage fell apart. Her husband, David, was an intern and apparently had a crush on the cutie in the lunch cart. He apparently forgot to tell her he was married. Carrie was waiting to have lunch with David when his slut peeked into his office and canceled the date. All hell broke loose. The slut made it clear that they had already had a few laughs. Colin, I have to warn you that I think David is mentally unstable. Once he finds out we're dating, he may come after you. Carrie, you deserve it. This is a chance I'm willing to take. Carrie and I dated for another 6 weeks before the conversation about exclusivity took place. It wasn't that kind of conversation. I was her one and only after her divorce. She had been my one and only since I left Sabrina. She knew how I would react to infidelity. I told her about my upbringing. I was still renting a room from Denise since we weren't ready to live together. Kathleen was still convinced I cared about her religion. We had a contract at work that required me to do some on-site inspections. This became the first hurdle in my relationship with Carrie. Although I had no reason to doubt Carrie's commitment to our relationship, the first time I called her at night and her phone answered messages, I flipped out. I tried calling an hour later, but the phone still switched to messages. My insecurity overwhelmed me. I have issues I need to work out. She called around 10. Hey, sweetie, I see you've called a couple times. Yeah, I guess I forgot where you were going. Obviously, you forgot. Remember I told you I was taking the professional engineering exam today? I remember. What time does it start? 6 o'clock. I could tell from your questions that you were worried when I didn't answer. Gotcha. How did the test go this time? Much better. My tutor knows his stuff. What time does your plane arrive? Carrie met me at the airport. We had dinner, and I found out I wasn't the only one having problems. Colin, we may be moving too fast. I trust you, but I was really worried when you only called in the evenings. Carrie, don't feel all alone. When you didn't answer that night, I suffered too. We are a pair of strangers with broken hearts. We'll have bouts of insecurity. One missed call isn't enough to ruin what I feel for you. I know we haven't said it yet, but I love you. Through tears, I love you too, Colin. After dinner, Celeste is going to spend the night with her mom. Would you like to spend another night on the road? The next day, I was worthless at work. We didn't even have a fight. Next chapter. We took our time, and the 6-month milestone came. Carrie had made a big deal out of it. In my heart, I felt like I was done with Sabrina. Life shows you can never take anything for granted. A few months later, I received an invitation to Sabrina's upcoming wedding. It was a Thursday night, and Carrie usually stayed for dinner at Denise's house. Colin, you're not yourself tonight. I can't figure out what's wrong, but you're acting out. Carrie, you know me well. I handed Carrie the invitation. She read it and handed it to Denise. Oh. Well, there you go. Facing the reality that you've been replaced. That's what she experienced when she discovered we were acting like a couple the night she came here. I think she did. It just stirred up some feelings I hadn't thought about before. Turn it over and read the back. Denise read and handed the letter to Carrie. Colin, I intend to be the most faithful and loving wife the world has ever known, Sabrina. Well, she'll be second to me. Whoever takes me will have the most faithful and loving wife the world has ever known. And by the way, we're not going to her wedding. Any suggestions? No, but I'm getting a little impatient. I've got my eye on a certain man. He's in his early 30s, but he still lives at home with my mom. He has some unresolved issues with his mom, doesn't he? Maybe with your therapy, he can live a normal life. Wait here. Denise and Carrie giggled. I found Celeste watching TV and asked her to join us in the kitchen. Celeste, I'm thinking about asking your mom to spend more time with me. What do you think about that? Mom smiles when she sees you. I glanced at Carrie and she shrugged. Nana smiles when she sees you too. She waits by the window and says, Colin's home. I looked at Denise and she shrugged. Carrie looked at Denise and her smile faded. Should we stay here some more, Colin? Well, no. I thought I'd spend more time where you live. Won't that make Grandma sad? Denise joined in. Honey, I'll see you as often as I always have. I know Colin and your mom will make sure I won't be sad. Colin, will you read me bedtime stories? Anytime you want, sweetie. Mommy, you're smiling again. I think you like Colin. I do, sweetheart. Digging in my pocket, I pulled out a box. I wasn't sure you'd even want to get married again. Getting down on one knee, I held out the ring box. Carrie, will you marry me? Carrie pushed me. Yes. Denise chirped. Come to the room. Celeste jumped on the pile. After the peach pie Carrie had baked, we finished the evening. Denise looked after Celeste and Carrie and I spent a few hours. Friday afternoon, Carrie and I packed up my things and loaded both cars. I'm going to miss you, Denise. Thank you for letting me out of my lease. I'm really going to miss your peach pie. Carrie slapped the back of my head. Keep acting stupid, and you might not get another one. After hugs and kisses, we drove to Carrie's house and I settled into my new surroundings. I read 2 books to Celeste for the night. Epilogue. We've both given up on the possibility of attending parties alone. We don't want the other to be bothered. That's what happens when you try to love again. As much as I wanted to send Sabrina an announcement, Carrie had the upper hand, and I rose above pettiness. I nixed any mention of a honeymoon in Mexico. Celeste was adorable as the flower girl. Carrie was beautiful and radiant in her wedding dress. Her ex-husband David is actually pleasant to be around when he takes Celeste on a weekend getaway with him. I guess when Carrie and I got married, he saved some money. Denise started renting out her room again after I moved out. I still make fun of her, saying she's practicing to be a cougar. She still flirts much more aggressively than one would expect from a mother-in-law. Kathleen still has dinner with us on Fridays at Denise's house. I still enjoy seeing her out of the house. Celeste and I are best buddies. I read her bedtime stories and she shows me how the dollhouses are set up. Carrie and I waited 2 years before expanding our family. Now Celeste has a little brother.
All right, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the ninth grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! What's wrong? Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, "I'm very sorry." Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, "Get his boss here immediately." It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. "What is that idiot doing?" "All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next." Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. "If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you." I immediately followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. "Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize." Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. "What kind of training are you giving your subordinates?" Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed, I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? "I'm very sorry." Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, "I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong." "Mike, what have you done?" Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. "I didn't do anything wrong." "You're still saying that? Look at him." Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. "I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract?" Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. "Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go." Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. "Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him." There's no way he was pushed aside. "Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he?" I don't remember that part." I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hope to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.